All right, so we are going to continue our review. This will be a last day to review. Let me get my quizzes up here, and we're just going to go over the quizzes, so let's get on it. So 2-3, let's take a look at this first one right there. And let's change this set to white. Let me change it to black so we could read it. Let's see. Yep, it works. All right, so it says plot the points, determine the slope, graph the line. All right, that's pretty basic, pretty straightforward, so let's do that pretty quick. All right, plot the points. Everybody should be able to do this, right? Right? If not, you should just probably walk out right now. To tell you the truth. No, don't walk out. Let's learn how to do it if you don't know how to do it, okay? It's -2, 3, so you start at the origin. You go -2 on the x, 1, 2, and 3 on the y, 1, 2, 3. Did I count right? 1, 2, 3, right there. Sometimes these lines get all mixed up in my eyes. 2, 1. So 2, 1 is right there. And then let's graph the line first, and then we'll worry about the slope. You could just count, couldn't you? Since you've already graphed it. Or you could do the little formula for the slope if you wanted to. So let's put little arrows right there. So there's the graph. Let's find the slope. Well, if you wanted to, since we got this nice little grid mark thing, we could do the slope, rise over run. So let's start with the top. We could start from the top and go to the bottom one, or we could start with the bottom one and go up and over to the top one. It doesn't make any difference. You'll get the same thing. So let's go down, 1, 2. So we got a -2, right, for the rise. Agreed? And then what is the run? 1, 2, 3, 4. +4, because we went to the right. So it's -2 over 4, which of course reduces to -1/2. And that's your slope. Pretty simple. If you wanted to, just to review, we're going to have to do it here anyway. Let's just do it. Do you remember what the little formula is? Let's say we didn't have our graph, right? We wanted to find the slope between the 2 points. Remember what it is? It's change in y over change in x. Do you remember that? What did we use? What's that fancy thing that we used for change in? Nobody remembers that? No, the change in. Do you remember that little triangle? What do we call it? It's not really a triangle. It's a what? It's a Greek letter. No, it's not omega. It's delta. You don't remember hearing that? You guys are in 12th grade and don't know that's delta? Well, my goodness. Well, I showed it to you. There was a, I don't watch it anymore, but Saturday Night Live, there was a skit a long time ago. I guess, I don't know when it was, maybe in the 90s or something. And this girl, anybody listening to me? Everybody's looking out there. This is funny. Well, it's not really that funny unless you were there and saw the, if you talk to an older person that watched SNL, then they might think it's funny. But this girl, she was like a fraternity girl, and she would answer the phone. She was like this California ditzy kind of, stereotype girl, blonde and all that stuff. Sorry for all the blondes in here, but so she would answer the phone. They would call the sorority, not fraternity, but she'd call the sorority, and she'd answer the phone, and she'd be all bubbly and stuff. She says, "Delta, Delta, Delta, can I help you, help you, help you?" And so when I think of this, I think of that stupid skit. Anyway, it was funny. Back then, people would say that all the time. All right. Enough of that. So what is it? It's delta y over delta x, which means what? The change in y over the change in x, which means, what do? The change in something means we just subtract. So you subtract the y's, put it on top, and then you subtract the x's, and you put it on the bottom. So that's how we do it. So let's go through it real quick. So you subtract the y's, 3 minus 1. And then you subtract the x's, and what's that? -2 minus 2. Let's see what that is. 3 minus 1 is 2 over -2 minus 2 is -4. Check it out. Did it really matter that we had the negative on the top or the bottom? Doesn't make any difference. So it's still -1/2. You could put the negative in the middle. You could put it on the top. You could put it on the bottom. It doesn't make any difference. So you didn't even have to graph the thing to be able to find the slope. But finding the slope is very important. If they give you 2 points, you may have to do that eventually anyway. All right, enough of that. Let's keep going because we got 2 quizzes we got to go through, and it's a shorter day today. So no more stupid stories. Find the equation of the line, given this stuff. Okay, the equation of a line. Here's something you have to memorize. You got to know what the equation of a line is. What are they asking you? And it says, put your answer in slope-intercept form, which is fine because that's That's like the most common equation of a line anyway, all right? So I didn't make this harder. I made it a little bit easier for you. So what's the slope-intercept form? Remember? Y equals what? Mx plus b. You should be able to say that in your sleep, right? Y equals mx plus b. So we got to find the equation of this line. Well, they couldn't have made this any easier. Number 2 is they give you the slope. So in this little equation right here, what is your slope? Which one of these 4 letters is your slope? It's the m. Okay, what about this? This -2 and 3. Where do we put that in this little situation? Well, remember, the first one is the what? The x, and the second one is the y. All right, so let's put all that stuff in here. I'll put a little m right there. So that's what you're putting into your formula. So you had to memorize the formula, or the equation, and now you just plug in everything else. So the y is a 3 equals the m, which is also a 3. It's not always going to be that. It just happens to be on this one. The x is a -2. And then we don't know the b. What is the b, by the way? What is the b? It's the y-intercept. So that's what we're trying to find, the y-intercept. We already know the slope. We just have to find the y-intercept. So they tell you the slope. You have to find the y-intercept. Everybody with me? And this is how you find the y-intercept. So you go 3 equals, what's this? -6 plus b. Add a 6 to both sides. So b is what? 9. Now, let's put it all together. That's not my answer. Okay, that's just the y-intercept. What does it say? Find the what? And I even underlined it, the equation of the line. So it needs to look like y equals mx plus b. So when we do this final finished equation, you're just going to put a y, and you're going to fill in the m and the b. Well, they already told you what the m was. We didn't have to do any work to figure that out. It's just 3. Just stick the x there, and then you put the b. That's why we did all this stuff right here, to find the y-intercept. And it's 9. It's a +9, so we put +9, and that is our equation. Simple as that. We good with that? All right. That's about one of the easier versions, probably the easiest version, of finding the equation of a line. Now we got to find the equation of a line that's parallel to this line. This is the key. It's parallel. What do we know about 2 lines that are parallel? Excuse me. They have the same slope, exactly right. So guess what we're going to find? They don't tell you the slope like they did on number 2. You have to find what the slope is. So what we're going to do is look at this and figure out what the slope is. Now, the way it's written right now, I may not be able to just look at it and tell what the slope is. So what I'm going to have to do is put this in slope-intercept form, okay? Which means I'm going to get y by itself. I need to solve for y. So let's solve for y. You could keep the y on the left side, but then you'd have a negative y. Then you have to get rid of the negative. I don't know. I think that's kind of a pain in the butt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the y over here on the right side. So I'm going to get 2x equals -2 plus y. You might be able to do this whole thing in your head, but I'm just showing you every little step. All right, now it's a positive y. It's a little bit better. Now I have to get rid of the 2. I add a 2 to both sides, and so what do I get? I get 2x plus 2 equals y. Or if you want to write it with the y first, oops, I was going to write m, so 2x plus 2. So that's how you could write that. Everybody with me so far? Why did we do that? Because we're trying to find what? The slope, and it's right there. That's our slope, okay? And that's what we're trying to find. Now, the problem is now it's just like number 2, because remember what's true about 2 lines that are parallel to each other. They have the what? The same slope. So if the slope of this line is 2, what is the slope of the line that we're trying to find? It's the same thing. It's 2, all right? So let's figure out what our y-intercept is for our line. Remember, they're 2 different lines. This is the line that they give you. We want to find another line, a different line, that has the same slope, but it's going to have a different y-intercept. So we got to figure out what the y-intercept is. So let's do that. We just basically did one just like it in that problem before this. So let's put some stuff in here. This is our x. This is our y. So let's put the y in. It's 2 equals. We don't know what, or we do know what the slope is. I'm sorry. It's 2, right? Because it's parallel. It's the same slope. What if it was perpendicular? Then what would you do with this slope? You'd take the negative reciprocal. Okay, but it is parallel, so it's got the same slope. So 2, and then the x is -1, and now we're going to find what that b is, just like we did in the other problem. So let's do this kind of quick. That's -2 plus b. Add a 2 to both sides. b is 4. So now, that's not our answer. We need to find the equation of the line. Do you remember it said find the equation of the line and write it in slope-intercept form? So we're going to write y equals, and then the m, which is 2, and then x, and then plus 4. That is the equation of a line. This line is parallel to this line, but this one's got a y-intercept of 4. This one had a y-intercept of 2. They're two different lines, but they're parallel to each other because they have the same slope. We good? All right. If you're not really following me, go back to the lesson where I first taught it. I probably go into a little bit more detail, but I did go into a lot of detail right there. So now what we're going to do is the same kind of thing, except the slopes are now perpendicular. So they give you a line that looks like this. We want to find a line that looks like this to it. You with me? So it's perpendicular. All right. So what do we know about slopes that are perpendicular? We just said it like 30 seconds ago. They're negative reciprocals of each other. All right, so let's find the slope of this line. We just do this in our head, can't we? Y equals, what do we do? Subtract a 2x from both sides. So what is the slope of the line that they give you? It's negative 2. But what's the slope of our line that's perpendicular? I like to do this. They don't do this in the book, but I like to write, what is the slope of our perpendicular line? What is it? It's the negative reciprocal, so it's the opposite of negative 2, which is positive, and then you take the reciprocal of 2, which you already said is 1/2. So our slope now is 1/2. You with me on that? Okay, so this might be their slope. This is going to be our slope. All right, our slope is negative 1/2. Their slope was positive, or I'm sorry. Our slope is positive 1/2. Their slope was negative 2. All right. For the third time now on this quiz, I'm going to do the same thing. So remember, it's y equals mx plus b. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. And let's put the stuff in. This is our x, this is our y, so put 0 equals, what's our slope now? Our slope is 1/2 times x, which is negative 3. I'm going to put that over 1 since I got a fraction. And then plus b. Let's figure out what it is. So that's 0 equals, what's this going to be? Negative 3/2. Is that correct? Plus b. And then, I don't have room, let's put it up here. So b is what? Add a 3/2, so it's 3/2. Looks a little scary because you got fractions, but you don't really have to do anything else. You're pretty much done. You just got to wrap it all up and write it as an equation of a line. So it's y equals m. Our slope is 1/2. It's the negative reciprocal of their slope. And then you put the x, and then you put your y-intercept, which you just found, plus 3 over 2. Don't write it 1.5. Don't write it 1.5. Just keep it 3 over 2. All right. Now, if you were to graph this, you'd have to realize that that is 1.5. So you go over 1 and then go over half more. But they don't ask you to graph this one. Okay. We good so far? Well, let's keep going. Number 5. So find the slope and y-intercept of this. Well, we've kind of been doing this all along, but then you're going to graph it as well. Can you just look at this and tell what the slope and y-intercept is? Not me. You might be smarter than I am, probably are, and you could just do this in your head, but I'm not going to do that in my head. I'm going to write it out and figure out what the slope is. So I want to take this and transform it into the slope-intercept form, which means I'm going to solve for y. So let's do that. Let's do the first step right now. So I'm going to get negative 3y. What's the first step? What am I going to do with that 2x? I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So that gets rid of it on the left side, and I got a plus 6 over here. Divide both sides by negative 3. Divide that by negative 3. Divide that by negative 3. And what do we get? We get y equals, negative over negative is positive, 2/3 x. Now that I'm thinking about this, some of you guys are doing this. I gave it to you. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. Some of you guys did this. Is that the same as 2/3 x? It's not. Okay? Now, I could put the top. Is that the same as 2/3 x? Yes, it is. Okay? But what I would do, I'd be careful and just make sure you kind of put it in the middle. Don't make it look like it's on the bottom, because if it looks like it's on the bottom, that's different. That's not the same thing. I'm not going to go through why. Yeah, that's why I circled it. But I didn't mark it wrong, though. Right? Okay. I could have. Some teachers might, but I didn't. So 6 over negative 3 is negative 2. That's the equation of the line, but that's not what the question says. The question says, what is the slope and what is the y-intercept? Now I just take a look at this, The slope is the 2/3. The y-intercept is this. Make sure you take that sign with it, and it's -2. Or if we write it as a point, which we should, what is it? It's 0, -2. That's technically how you really should write it. I think if you put -2 in here, I gave it to you. But really, you should write it as an ordered pair. All right? And it says to graph it. So I would just take this information and graph it. The y-intercept is 0, -2. So what does that mean? It means it crosses right there. The slope is 2/3. Rise over run. We did that in the very first problem on this quiz. So we rise, 1, 2. We run, 1, 2, 3, right there. And then we just connect them like that and extend them. What do I say almost every time? Don't do what? Don't start and stop at the points. That's right. Okay, don't just start and stop your line and just do a little segment. It's not a line segment. It's a line, okay, which means it keeps going. That's why I keep putting arrows on the end of this, okay, because it's a line. Again, some teachers are really picky on stuff like that, right? If you put a line segment, they mark it wrong because it says graph the what? The line, all right, and a line keeps going. All right, enough of that. Everybody good with that? Yeah, that's good. John, can you go to the ARC and get Brooklyn, tell her we're finished? Because she hasn't taken this quiz yet, so I had her step out. All right, so let's get rid of all of this. Let's bring in the last one. Everybody in here finished 2-4? Okay. Oh, why did it do that? Did that before. That's so weird. Let's try it again. Here, let's do it like this. Boom, boom. There we go. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And we'll just put this up here, and then we'll do this. One more. There we go. All right, so you just took this thing yesterday, right? And you just got it back today. So let's take a look. Let's go over it. Let's see what we can do. Thank you. Did you take it? Yeah. Okay. All right, so here we go. It says on problems 1, 2, and 3, we use the circle with the center of 1, 2, and the radius of 3, write the standard form. Well, let's write actually what the standard form is. Do you remember what the standard form of an equation of a circle is? Something you have to remember. Okay, we usually put the r squared on the right, but we'll put the r squared on the right. So what do we do? X what? Minus h.
Josiah Ruff, please come to the office. Josiah Ruff to the office. Thank you.
Yeah, Josiah Ruff, please come to my class is what you should say. Y minus what? What's the letter? K. And then squared equals. Does it really matter if you put the r squared on the right or the left? Nah, it doesn't make any difference, but I just kind of like to do it like that. So what does this mean, though? What is the h and the k? What's that? That's the center of the circle. Okay, this is the x coordinate of the center. This is the y coordinate of the center. All right, so now let's do it, the standard form. So I'm going to write x minus, I'll put a blank, just writing out the shell of the equation right now, aren't I? And then equals whatever r squared is. Okay, so x minus h. What's the h? Well, this is the h, and that's the k. All right, so x minus 1, y minus 2, and then it's 3 squared. Now, some of you wrote 3 squared. Come on. What should you do with 3 squared? Make it a 9. Okay, I didn't mark it off, but I did say something, didn't I? Anybody do that? Yeah, I did say something, but I didn't mark it off, all right? So put a 9 there, always simplify it, and that's it for the standard form. That's easy. Really no math involved. You just have to memorize what the standard form is, and then just plug it in. No biggie. All right, general form. That's a little bit tougher. What's the general form? You remember that? Isn't it x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. So basically, it's this, but what did we do to this? We FOILed it out, right? We FOILed this, and then we stuck everything on the left-hand side. We put the 2 squared things together. We put the x and y together. This is the constant, right, which means it's just a regular number without an x next to it, and we set it equal to 0. So that's the general form. So what we're going to do is take this that we just did on number 1, we're going to FOIL it, stick everything on the left, put the x squared and the y squared together, put the x and the y together, and then at the end, put the constant, set it equal to 0, and that's the way it should look. Some people put the x squared and the ax together. I didn't mark it wrong, but I did say something on there because this is the general form. We want to write it like this. All right, so let's do that. So it's x minus 1. Let's just do this. What's x minus 1 squared? Some of you might actually be able to do this in your head, but if not, oops, what am I doing? Stupid. This is what I wanted to do. Do you see why I'm doing that? Because it's what? Because it's squared, that's right. Because this is squared. Now let's do some FOIL. I'm going to do this in my head. I'm not going to write down every little step. So it's first, outside, inside, last. So the first is x squared. The outside is negative 1x. The inside is negative 1x. Negative 1x minus negative 1x is negative 2x. Now, here's where some of you went wrong. Negative 1 times negative 1 is what? It's positive 1. Some of you guys put negative 1 here. All right? You got to know how to multiply. I'm sorry. I had to mark it wrong. Let's do this. Y squared. Negative 2y minus 2y is negative 4y. And then again, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And then let's do this. We got to set it equal to 0, right? So let's take that 9 and just put it over here on the left-hand side and set it equal to 0. Now let's just simplify it. Again, what do? We put the x squared and the y squared together. So I forgot to put a squared here, sorry. All right, so put the x squared and the y squareds together. So I've got an x squared plus a y squared. You can do this if you want. You don't have to, but I like to mark it out so I know I'm done with it. And then let's put the x's and the y's together. So I've got a minus 2x and a minus 4y. That and that. And then let's see what we get here. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Some of you guys messed that part up. It's just like simple addition. Okay, or some people put a negative 1 and a negative 4. That's why you got this wrong. All right, but that's it. That is your, oops, let me look at the right quiz here. Yep, that is the answer to number 2. We'll circle that. All right, so I'm going to have to move this up, so I'm going to remember. So the center is 1, 2, and the radius is 3. So let's graph it. I don't even need that standard form stuff, do I, to be able to graph this thing? I can graph it right from the information, and I think one person got it wrong. I won't call you out. You may not even be in here. I can't remember who it was. But I think only one person, I think, got this wrong. So it's 1, 2, and the radius is 3, so go over 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you draw a circle. Sorry. Ugh. It's supposed to be a circle. Anyway, it's close enough. I give you that. All right, there you go. That's all you had to do for that. Pretty easy. It's easy to graph a circle, isn't it? Especially if you know the center and the radius. It's a piece of cake. All right, let's do this. Now you had to do a little work. This is where the math came in, isn't it? All right. So we've got a few minutes here, right? Got about 4 or 5 minutes. So let's do this. What form are they giving it to you in? The general form. I can't just look at this and tell what the center and the radius is. All right, I'm not that smart. I can't just look at it. So what do I have to do? I have to change it from the general form into the, talk to me, standard form. All right, so how in the world are we going to do that? Well, we're going to put the x's together. Let's do this over here off to the side, about right here. So I'm going to put the x's together. So I got an x squared plus a 4x. Do you remember the little trick that I gave you? Put a plus and a what? A little blank. Yeah, put a blank. Give yourself some room because you're going to do something with that in a second. You follow me so far? That's all I did. I just grouped the x squared and the 4x together, put them here. Then put a plus. And let's group the y's together. So I'm going to put a y squared. Let's make that look like a y. So I'm going to put a y squared and then a plus 2y. And then I'm going to put a plus, put a blank, and then put a parentheses. And let's set it equal to what? So let's put the 20 over here. So I got the 20 right there. Okay, everybody with me so far? We haven't really done any math yet. All we did is just reorganize stuff, right? That's all we've done. So now is when we're going to do the math. Let's change colors on this one. So we need to fill in that blank. It's called completing the what? The square, okay? We did it in the review. We've done it several times in this chapter. We're at a point where you need to know how to do this, all right? Renee, you getting all this? Or you already know how to do this? So let's figure out what goes here. What goes here? Well, we take the middle one, and what do we do with the middle one? Cut it in half. Take half of it. So what's half of 4? 2. And then you do something else to it. You square it. What's 2 squared? It's a 4. Thought I was changing to blue. Why didn't it go blue? There we go. Should be blue now. So there's a 4. Matt, what'd you just say? That's right. So I can't just randomly just add a 4 to the left side and expect these two sides to still be equal to each other, right? So I'm going to have to come over here and add a 4 over to the other side. You with me so far? Let's do the same thing right here. Let's take half of this. So what's half of 2? It's 1. And then I got to do what to it? Square it. What's 1 squared? Still 1, isn't it? All right, so you put a 1 there. Again, can't just arbitrarily just add a 1 to the left side. I'm going to also add a 1 to the right side. It balances out now, right? So the left side is equal to the right side if it's an equation. And it is. Whoops. Let's do that. Okay. Now, why did we do that? What was the whole purpose in doing that right there? It was to complete the square. It was to make it into a perfect square, because the standard form of a circle is a perfect square, all right? So it's x minus something squared. So that's what we want to write it like, okay? So what do I write? X. What I do is I always take this sign right here, because this one's always going to be positive. So I always take what this sign is, and I put it right there. And basically, you're taking the square root of 4. So what's the square root of 4? It's 2. I'm not going to go through like the reasoning. I did that in the review chapter. It's not time now to do that. That's how you do it, though. And then we're going to do this. Going to put a y. Always look at that sign. And then you'd basically just take the square root of that. It's basically the backwards FOIL method, right? We're going the other way. So instead of squaring something to get the last thing, we're square rooting it to get what's going to be here. Equals, what's that going to be? That's going to be 25, isn't it? All right. Now, does this look familiar? Yeah, it does. Okay, this should be a good thing for you, because now we can just find the center, find the radius. We're done. We get 100 on the quiz, right? All right, so let's take a look at the center. Now, this one might be a little bit tricky, because you remember our standard form. It's x what? Minus h squared. And then it's y minus k quantity squared equals 25. So what are we subtracting? Are we subtracting a positive 2? No, we're subtracting a negative 2, because it's minus negative 2. So this is going to be negative 2. I had 1 or 2 people put a positive 2 here, even though they did this right, okay? So you got to understand what it means, and this is going to be a negative, because it's x minus whatever the h is. This is minus negative 2. This is minus negative 1. That's why we get a negative 2 and a negative 1. That's my center. And the radius, that's easy. It's not 25, because what is the 25? That's equal to what? R squared. So what's R going to be? Is it going to be plus or minus 5? No, because it's a radius, it's a length. Do we have a negative length? No, we don't. Look at that. Finished on time. We're good to go. Yes, ma'am. Yep. All right. So Monday, we're going to start a new chapter on Monday, and we'll take the test on this on Wednesday.